like micromanagement and blah, blah.
First order of business, can I have a motion to approve
in the
minutes
same
from
boat.
February
Like,
28th
I
meeting?
think Natalie Swan just wants to go where.
All in favor?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Okay, I have a motion
Okay.
to approve the minutes from the.
Yes, I did. I-
Yellow flag.
Sorry.
So moved? Okay.
Yes.
Second, I second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. 700 series. Does anyone want to take it from here? Matt, do you have anything to say about the 700 series?
No, we really don't have any substantive things to
Yes.
share or update, so I guess that's my opening on that. We did talk about them, looked through them again. I think you maybe have a couple small edits in there in the highlights to look through, but they're actually pretty minor, and it's a small series of policies, so I don't think there's anything. I'm just doing a double check here, but nothing else we would really highlight to you.
And here's our Director of Operations. Do you have anything to add to the 700 series?
Not off the top of my head. I did bring the team who did a lot of the review themselves in case you had questions, but I heard what Matt was saying, and I agree. There was nothing substantial really to note in these. Kind of just part of the operations, as you said, Director Finch.
Yeah, sorry, it's not, there's just nothing exciting about
No.
this one to bring up. So it's not that I don't care, it's that there's really not much
There
to
wasn't
it.
much to say.
More is good.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
exactly. We prefer it that way.
Charlie, JP, do you have any questions or concerns or
I just have-
additions or deletions?
I just want to bring up something that had struck me when I was reading through parts of this, which I actually do. Section 704.5 is student activities funds. And as I understand it, this policy puts the control of all funds raised by anyone in the district under the district's control. And I guess I was wondering, do all of the people that raise funds know that funds are going to be raised will be under the district's control and already making those funds available to the district?
Les, do you want to comment on that? I mean, I have
Yeah.
some thoughts, but go ahead.
Are you referring, Charlie, to like the booster clubs or music auxiliary raising funds on behalf of the district? Or are you talking only about like our student groups and our buildings when they bring any funds in?
Well, I'm not sure, Les, frankly.
7045 is just the student activity funds.
Right,
So
it'd
just
only be
student
those
activity
funds
account.
that come into this, the district's bank account essentially, think of it that way. We are responsible for, and they have to meet the public funds, just like the other funds that are specified in Iowa code for school districts. So,
Okay, so if I'm a parent at an elementary school, and I'm in charge or asked to do collecting money for some activity, do I understand that I have to give that money over to the district, or does it take care of that?
it depends. If they're doing it under the guise of the PTO, no, because the PTO is a separate tax entity.
Is that right?
The student activity fund, that is like the admission to athletic events, or maybe if there's a fee that someone in an extracurricular activity needs to pay, that's what the student activities fund is. It's not the PTO.
So it doesn't, would it include the car wash for the music program?
No, because that's done by the music auxiliary, and they're all separate tax entities, 501c3 groups.
Okay, so those funds are actually not under the control of the district?
Right, not until they write us a check to Iowa City Community School District.
And do they have to do that with all of the funds that they collect?
They don't have to, but they would probably, if they were ever audited, they'd get in trouble because their charter is to be a support group for the district. So if they start sending them to, I don't know, West Branch School District for some reason or something like that, it would, or even some other country, they would probably get in trouble that perspective. But
And the audits are arranged by the district or by each
No, we're not, they're not part of our audits because they're not a component unit of the school district under the accounting rules.
So in the
But
worst
that's
case,
typical.
yes, if you had poor behavior by a PTO, right, where they were fundraising all of this money, the money's never coming back into the district to benefit students, then that PTO could potentially have a problem with either their 501c3 status or, you know, where is all that money going, and it's not being dispersed to the appropriate, so, but from an audit perspective, our auditors would not go in and audit them to make sure that practice is is happening in the right way. But once we receive the money, then Charlie, now we're responsible for it as a gift, right?
Well, I guess my interest here is what happens to the money before we receive it? If we, or how do we know that we should receive it?
Can you give me an example of a scenario? I'm trying to understand exactly.
Charlie, you can so I bought a box of grapefruit from a band kid at Liberty. Is that what you're talking about? And so, are you asking that, like, does the band kid and their family know that, because I bought it from that band kid and it goes to the band program that's actually going into the district student activity fund?
I guess my question would be, does the band program or whoever, or that activity is organized, is organized, the people organizing that, do they know that they have to turn that on?
All of those funds would be payable to the Iowa City Community School District.
Yeah.
They'd be deposited in our account by the building secretary.
Yeah.
By the building secretary.
We have financial
Financial
secretaries,
secretaries at all
financial
lines.
secretaries in each of the high school. So someone in the building designated to help collect that money that knows those
I'm
processes.
sorry to distract.
No, it's not. It's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
You know, in your PTO example that you were kind of alluding to, Charlie, you probably have other parents that would be wondering about where that funds would go.
Oh, yeah.
They would probably say something to the principal, and the principal would come to, you know, like myself, Matt, Chase, and if we felt that it needed to, we could then, you know, help guide them to the state auditor's office. That would be the most severe scenario, and they would go do an audit of that group. You hear those stories all the time. I mean, that's your extreme, but that's where it would go is if somebody had a concern within one of those groups.
Okay, thanks.
The other, and maybe Matt's talked to the board about.
No, I was just gonna bring it up
Yeah,
now, it's the policy right before it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've really been working on with our ancillary organizations and even our schools is to try to get all fundraising to go through the foundation to help really provide that funnel and that streamline to designate the foundation as our fundraising arm of the organization. So even if they're not doing the fundraising, the policies set a threshold of $5,000, where if it's more than that, we want the foundation to have eyes on it so we don't have donor fatigue, so that we make sure we do the right accounting practices. So really just trying to streamline that so Susan and her team help us work through some of those different pieces.
Yeah, so the policy right before it is 7044, gives grants and bequests, and so we had talked about making maybe an edit to that policy, but decided against it for now until we could come up with a more specific administrative regulation or guideline to accompany it with some of those specifics, because right now it leaves it pretty open that how it's received and how it's processed. The policy is pretty general. We'd like to get that a little bit more specific based on some conversations we had earlier this year. So don't be surprised at some point if there's an accompanying piece to 7044, but right now we weren't ready to do that because there's still a few things we needed to either make decisions on or work with Susan on, but the policy is sufficient. It's just we probably think there's another layer of detail that needs to go below it.
I mean, that's one where we end up hearing about it. People will say, well, I want my money to go to this thing. And they're like, well, and this is just, it's oversight. I think it's a good idea to centralize it, the donor fatigue. I mean, it's kind of an idea of who needs what. And way back in the day, you know, it sort of exacerbated the issue where wealthier schools got more. And, you know, this is just one way that we can utilize it.
It's the playground.
The playground.
That's
yeah.
what got it. I think that's a lot that led to some of this is the playground.
And the technology.
And the technology
Technology,
pieces.
yeah, some schools had computers and didn't.
The grapefruit, great. I just want to put that out there.
Well, all right.
Like, I mean, low dollar things, I'm gonna put a plug in for the grapefruit and the whole box of oranges.
Box of oranges.
They were awesome.
I bought Very fruitful.
Thank you, I appreciate that, yeah.
Okay, does anyone have anything else? All right.
I guess I have one question. It's not on the 700, but it's on the reconsideration policy. I was noticing in the paper today, they said something about that book that was involved in the Northwest issue, that book has been pulled as part of the reconsideration policy. Is that how? I didn't realize that we pull it. If somebody says, I want you to do this, then we pull the book? Okay.
Yeah, we pull it for the time being to have
Okay.
it reconsidered.
Okay, for some reason I didn't know that.
Yeah, there was a couple things at play there. One is to help probably mitigate the ongoing threat as well,
Right.
right? That we don't end up in that scenario. And then really more for protection for the district is we'd want to run it through our process and make sure that, okay, if this is subject of question, then let's just take it to our
Okay.
process and have it reviewed. And then
Yeah,
I'm assuming we'll get it back on the shelves, but, we'll let that committee do their work.
right.
Without having the exact wording, because I've looked at it a few different times today,
Yeah,
it does say under certain circumstances, the book may be pulled temporarily. So
oh, thank you. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's not necessarily always done that we pull the
Correct.
book, but,
Yeah.
okay,
There'll be a message that goes out tonight, probably during the board meeting, to the community about that too.
yeah.
We just finished it up here about an hour ago.
Good, all right, that's gonna be a short meeting. When is our next policy and governance meeting? 4 weeks from today?
Yes,
25th,
April
25th?
April 25th?
April 25.
Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'm so moved to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.